Very well welcome to the spiritguides.co.uk network radio. It's great to have Chris Bourne back on. Hello Chris, from the Openhand Openhand Foundation. We have spoken before in the past, back in October 2009. We had a fantastic chat back then, didn't we, Chris, on what was happening in the world, the credit crunch, 2012, all that kind of stuff. And we're still heading that way, albeit in slow motion. So you've come back on because you've put together an amazing documentary, and you've already had a magnificent response on YouTube already. So I'm not sure if I can add to that. I hope so, and I'm glad we can bring it to our audience as well.
I noticed you put it on the homepage on your website, and that was thank you. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, obviously, with this interview, it's about pushing that video out, so the video will go onto the show page as well. So if you're listening to this, then the video will be there for you to watch as well. And obviously we put our interviews up onto YouTube as well. So so enjoy the video and spread it. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Put a lot of work into it. It's very professional, and I imagine it's not cheap to do something like that. So well done, Chris.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Lots of people gave a lot of time and gave up jobs and livelihoods to make it, actually. So I'm very grateful for the people involved, who produced it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just for the benefit of any new listeners, can you just kindly give us a brief background about yourself, why you're doing this work, and what's driven you really to produce this very slick and thought-provoking documentary?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing I should say is that I never intended to do any of this, that it wasn't something that came out of the mind, it wasn't a plan or a career choice or anything, but that really things kicked off for me during a car crash and the events leading up to that. And really during the crash I thought I was going to die. I was convinced I was going to die. And during that experience, there was a huge amount of letting go inside. And then I had some pretty profound multidimensional experiences, but really that wasn't the end of the story by any means, but just the beginning. And then in the years that followed, I went through two other similar, quite powerful, life-changing events. And following the third one, which left me in what I now know as a kind of enlightened state, or it was then. I was guided to a workshop by a chap called William Meader from California, who was introducing or talking about some of the Alice Bailey work and her work with the Tibetan Dwal Kul. And he was talking about these 5, what they called initiations. And as soon as he was talking about them, there was this deep kind of resonance inside, and I realized that I'd actually gone through 3 of the initiations that they spoke of. And it's really that really brought my attention to what I was going through, but then I went on to go through the other 2 gateways, as I was given to call them, and I also experienced the Tibetan Dwal Kul working with me when I became more aware of that energy, and then it became really clear to me that my purpose was to share these 5 expansions, almost like, if you like, it's almost like I've been taken through a sort of textbook experience in order to share them. Now, everybody's obviously going to have a unique and individual journey, but what we're observing is that generally our transitions seem to embrace similar things as we go through these 5 key steps. So that's what really inspired me, and I really feel driven by this energy. I feel like 5 gateways, this Routemap that I call it. I see people all around the world, and I'm connecting with people all around the world now, and people are making these transitions, and they're coming from many and varied different approaches, and that's absolutely wonderful. Yet there's a lot of confusion because people don't fully know or appreciate necessarily where they're at. And I think the value of having a route map is that it helps people from many varied different approaches see where they are in relation to their own spiritual evolution and ascension. So that's really why I've been felt it.
Yeah, fantastic. So, I mean, one of the questions that I've wanted to ask you, and I'll probably ask you this now because it leads on quite nicely, is that obviously there's a lot of people that lead very busy lives and distracted by jobs, 9 to 5, paying the bills, that kind of thing, and probably wondering how can they get into that state. if they're constantly chasing like survival, like money, a job, trying to keep a roof over their heads and stuff like that. I mean, can we all walk away from things like that, or do we need to do that side by side, or will it be a time we won't need to do any of that? So I don't know.
I think that's a great question, and I'm asked it all the time. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching with people. I'm asked that question exactly all the time, and I'd say the three answers that you gave, there's three possibilities. Essentially, I see the evolutionary journey. It is our karma. It's humanity's karma to change this system in which we're living, to unravel this matrix, unwind it for the good of all life on the planet. So, I witness a lot of people going through these changes. Some leave the matrix, shall we call it. Some leave the matrix for a given period of time to find out who they really are, to unwind who they really are and unfold, and then come back in. Other people are in families and feel like it's right to remain in a family, that it feels right to them, but that they need to make more gradual step changes within the lives that they're leading. And that may lead to a change in career. It may lead to a change in location and the way you live your life, but they might be more gradual. And at the end of the day, what I see is that lots of light workers infusing light into the matrix, not by necessarily leaving it altogether, but being present in it and breaking it down by bringing a higher consciousness into it.
Yeah. So do you see this is an ongoing process rather than like an event? Like recently we had in the Christian faith that they talk about the rapture, and obviously it didn't happen. And some people, I get the feeling some people think Ascension is going to be the same thing, although I think that actually it's a process. I mean, how do you see that?
Oh yeah, I'm totally aligned with you. If people are waiting for one big event, then they're going to be very disappointed. That's something I think we need to look at really, really closely. This is about a very, for each one of us, it's a very individual journey of unraveling your particular distortions through day-to-day life, through confronting conditioned behavior patterns and those behaviors that would drag you back down into the lower density. And so only you can walk your path. And so, having some major event or some guru come along or whatever it is, some savior, that's not really going to do it for you. It's about an individual journey. Yes, we co-create event circumstances together, but no, for me, definitely Ascension is an ongoing process. But we can also say that some pretty major events are taking place right now. Huge shifts of consciousness globally that are going to see some pretty major events taking place. So I think we are going to see collective events happening, quite major ones. But it's still a journey of self-realization, realization of the self, and our own evolutionary journey.
Yeah. So how does it differ? Yeah, of course it does. I mean, is this like an accelerated enlightenment where it's a similar thing that's always been there for the ancients, the people that have obviously chosen to do enlightenment and obviously go and live solitary, if you like, but almost like because perhaps time is running out in essence and we need to start thinking about enlightenment or becoming our true selves, or some people say to almost bring more of who we are into our physical form, to become who we should be, really.
Exactly, yeah. What I see is that you're absolutely right, is that there's a culmination of a huge number of events happening all around this time, and that's just synchronicity. That's just because there's the movement. I see that an underlying movement in the consciousness of Gaia, for example, that it feels to me like she is centering within the fifth dimension, and that's happening, around this time, as we move into 2012 and all around this time. But that's part of an ongoing evolutionary journey, and also it's bringing into effect some other pretty major events, like the breakdown of the financial system, like peak oil, like climate change. They're all coming together as at the same time that humanity is being invited to confront its karma. The karma of control, if you like, the way we've mistreated the planet. So it feels like it's all coming to a kind of head around this evolutionary journey of Gaia, and humanity is being invited to embrace its destiny, which really is ultimately, to move into this higher vibrational paradigm that is here and now all around us. So it's kind of feels like a culmination of events coming together to me.
Yeah. I guess depending on who you are spiritually, you're going to react in different ways. So the spiritual people, I guess, are more accepting of the changes and want to embrace a more harmonious world. But then you've got the people that want to keep hold of the, be still in the status quo and keep the oil and greed. They're obviously going to fight for that, aren't they? They're not going to let go of that easily.
That's right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and you see exactly that polarization happening, and of course, the more awake we all become, the greater that polarity happens, because you see it more clearly, and as it feels to me like natural resources are beginning to dwindle away, and that to me is very metaphoric and also real of this movement of energy into the higher paradigm. And as that happens, then you're going to see those who are still engaged in the old fear-based reality striving and struggling to cling on to that which is dwindling away.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the question I want to ask you now is basically more around the internet and how people sort of choose different paths at this time. So, there seems to be two distinct awakening movements on the internet. One path being predominantly spiritual, where the seeker is following the path of ascension, unity, well-being and enlightenment. And the other path is where the seeker wishes to share information that exposes corruption through what many call conspiracy theories. How do you see these different approaches fit together, and are they part of the same process with regards to a shift in consciousness?
Well, absolutely. A fascinating question. And from my personal perspective, I'd say they're two ends of the same spectrum. So you have a shift in consciousness which is causing some people to deeply explore the matrix in which we live and to unravel the distortions, the untruths, the control, the conspiracies that people are seeing. So there's a movement to unravel that, but the acceleration of consciousness is causing others to realize, well, actually, if I really want to change that, what I've got to do is change myself. I can only really, we can go on, speak on the internet, we can thump the table, we can get excited and say this is wrong, we shouldn't live like this, we should live a different way. But unless you feel compassion inside of yourself, unless you feel your interconnectedness with the whole of life inside of yourself, then people are not really inspired to change. So really what I see is needed, what will come, is that as people follow the evolutionary journey within inside of themselves, they are going to see the injustice within society. They are going to see and feel their own attachments. You can't just distance yourself from it, because we've created this reality because of our karma, and the only way to truly process the karma is to go into it, to work with it, to relinquish one's attachment to it. And interestingly, as you do that, you actually infuse light into the matrix as you do that, because you're exploring all of these events that are taking place, the conspiracies, and you're calling it into question. For me, that's why the credit crunch happened, because more and more people are saying life is unsustainable. And because they're holding that within their consciousness and working with their own sustainability, it's sending a wave out to everyone that's saying, look, life as it is unsustainable. And more people pick up on that. So as you change yourself, you change the matrix. And especially if you're involved within it or you stay connected. So personally, just to summarize, the question, I see them as two ends of the same spectrum, and ultimately, I see the path for many of us is to unfold our beingness, infuse that through our lives around us, and thereby break the matrix down. So you break the conspiracy, not by fighting it, because fighting it will only cause it to persist. It's like exposing the lie within it by showing a higher way, a more compassionate way, a more connected way, a more sustainable way that serves all sentient life. And when we're living that way, we feel joy and harmony inside. And more people see that, and they want to emulate that, and that's what inspires the movement.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, we're part of a huge energy, like a huge fabric of consciousness and a field there, isn't it? And I guess it's quite muddy and murky from the negativity that's been happening, and it's about like injecting more light into that, and also we create a reality that mirrors who we are within. So we want to create something better, that we have to change our mirror. Is that right?
Well, yes, absolutely. So to me, the outer reality we're seeing is muddy and confused because we are unraveling, gray areas within inside of ourselves. And so absolutely, I agree with you. As we unravel our highest truth within, as we each do that, we change the outer reality, and that ripples outwards, inviting more and more to do the same. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree with you. Yeah.
So my next question, which I think you've probably already answered in that one, but I'll ask it anyway, just so that you can answer it. So I've got here, many new spiritual beliefs seem to tell us that we shouldn't read newspapers or get involved in the drama of life, as this will hold us back with our ascension. Some people listening to this may wonder how moving our gaze away from the people who seek to destroy the world through greed and control will suddenly become loving and benevolent if we simply ignore them. If we change our mirror, will this eventually change the outer mirror of the greater reality?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. I think, if I can speak personally about my own journey, when I started to wake up and walk the spiritual path, there were certain aspects of my life which I needed to let go of, like reading newspapers, like watching the TV, soap operas, that kind of thing, which I felt were full of judgmentalism, and all they were really doing was giving energy to the old consciousness within me that I wished to move beyond. And so as I progressed down the path, I found myself naturally seeking a more pure life, if you like. But interestingly, then the journey changed for me, and I realized, having made some key changes, and I think it's important that we have this space to unfold and unravel, but having made those changes, then I felt I was definitely guided back to society and to engage with society and people around me. And yes, now I will dip into a newspaper. I will watch a film. I don't tend to watch the TV, but I do watch some stuff on YouTube, on the internet. I will engage with those, but the important thing is now I'm doing it consciously. So I'm aware that I'm doing it for a reason and a purpose that helps me engage, understand what's going on, interact with when we're invited, and then ideally to bring some light into.
Yeah, sure. So with your foundation, where you're based, are you actually like a spiritual community that lives quite simply, off the land and stuff like that? So I get the impression, looking at you, that's what you live like, but I'm not quite sure. How is it that you live? It looks great.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's really interesting you asked that, because my heart's yearning has always been to create a community, and a group of us came together, and I thought that was going to happen, but initially it parked me. My journey has parked me right slap bang in the middle of a housing estate in Glastonbury. I have quite a large black garden, which I'm very fortunate to have, and a few friends have come to live with us over the time. We have a small. There's only 4 of us now, but what's interesting, we have created as much as possible a self-sustaining, as much as we can, a self-sustaining way of living. However, what came to me very strongly is that there are millions, hundreds of millions of people in the developed Western world living in brick-built houses on housing estates, and we can't all run off to, a 16-acre plot and live in an eco-friendly house necessarily. It's about how we can make changes to the way we're living now, because what are we going to be able to knock all those houses down and head off to the country?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, it's actually quite refreshing to hear that, because many people listening to this, that is how they live, and you almost look at, when you look at spiritual communities, you have a yearning thinking, oh, I'd love to be able to go and do that, but it just seems you've got to be someone that's been, you've inherited a piece of land, for instance, or you're brave enough to live in the wilderness.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And what I'm finding, especially in a place like Glastonbury, I think Glastonbury is a great model, is that people are putting cabins in their garden and inviting a friend to come and live with them, and they're growing their own food, and they're starting to get off grid, and they're collecting their own water, and they're using a lot less, and consuming less, being more self-sustaining in that sense, working for themselves as much as they can, but they're still within the kind of the established setup, if you like, within normal houses and gardens and everything else. And so I see that as a huge movement of within spiritual circles, where you're kind of in society, but not of it. And this is really a fantastic mirror for what I was talking about earlier, which is like being in the matrix but not of it, and thereby bringing light into it. So we can all change and live more sustainably in the place we're in. We can all, we've all got a balcony or a little back garden maybe. You can put little grow bags there, or use less electricity, maybe get recycled clothes, these kinds of things. So we're consuming less, and therefore becoming more at one with this consciousness and movement of Gaia. We have as a race been plundering, really, and now there's an invitation to come back into line with. But that doesn't necessarily mean we'll all head off to the countryside. People will do that, but not everyone, because we don't have the money for a start.
Yeah.
But interestingly, what I'm finding now is Openhand is all about a virtual community of people doing very similar. So we're connecting with literally thousands of people around the world who are living in a beginning to discover a similar way of living.
Sure, yeah. And something just popped into my head just now, really, is that you're based in Glastonbury. I've been to Avebury as well, and it seems that there's certain places that there's an energy there, and it just attracts, or where spirituality seems to flourish with people. And I often wonder, is it because of the energies that are there, almost like ley lines come into play and people are drawn there? Do you feel that's the case with?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a grid energy where there are certain very strong nodes of energy, and Glastonbury is certainly one of those. I mean, a lot of people around here, and overseas as well, would say that Glastonbury is represents the heart chakra of the planet. And certainly, when people come here, they notice, if they're sensitive, they'll notice a big shift internally, and it causes people to activate all kinds of things, to activate karma and to unfold more. So there are key spots around the planet, yes, but I should also say it's not necessarily a great thing to live in one the whole time, because what you find is that you end up processing the whole time. It's like being hugely revved up all the time. So often for people, we find it's good to come in, to experience that, to work with the energy, and then perhaps leave, and then come back again later.
Yeah. So I did last year. We did a trip west, because we're based on the east coast, Leon Sea actually, which is just it's not far from the Thames. And we done a trek all the way across the west coast. It's not west coast, west, right through Avebury, and then we ended up ultimately in Glastonbury, and then came back. And it was just such a wonderful experience to visit.
Yeah, sounds wonderful.
The stone circles and Avebury, then Glastonbury, and it's just amazing to see so many people into this in one place. And obviously, people talk. Yeah. So just a good question to ask, really. So, was you always based there, or was you drawn there?
No, I was definitely drawn here. I originally, I was living in Hampshire when I woke up. And then following that, I went to different places like Wales, a bit in the Midlands, and also down in the southeast. But then when I met my partner, Trinity, we were both felt guided here at the same time. And it was very much we were called here. And things started to move and open up for us that we might live here. So really that happened about sort of 5 years ago. But Openhand had already been going quite some time before then.
Yeah. Okay. So another question I've got is, why is the Earth going through the physical changes at the moment? There's quite a lot of earthquakes, climate patterns all over the place, and obviously there seems to be this rising potential for food shortages, and this is obviously one good reason to have your own garden, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for me it's deeply significant of an underlying shift in Gaia's consciousness, as I spoke of. I know in my heart, it's not a belief, it's a knowing in my reality, and others too, of course, that she's shifting a center of consciousness into a fifth dimensional reality. And I think that's why you're seeing, to a degree, shortages of fuel, energy, food. But also, I think that's caused by, we got out of balance. We got out of balance with the Industrial Revolution when population explosion happened as a result of cheap oil, and as a result, we're stretching the capacity of the planet. Really, that's my feeling. It's all come at the same time. So we're being invited through that shift and through dwindling resources to examine how we have been exploiting the earth, really, and with that process our karma and then ascend through that.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you see multi-dimensional beings fitting into this? Perhaps extraterrestrials or even ultra. Are they here to help us? Are they already here trying to wake us up?
Well, I think it's a very deep question. It's a big question, and I've had copious experience with these kinds of energies. And I prefer to, well, I definitely see two camps. So I see a malevolent consciousness and I see a benevolent one. A malevolent one which has really fueled the creation of the matrix itself as a means of exploitation, is how I experience it and see it. And that's been going for quite some, several thousand years. And then I see a benevolent consciousness which is working with us to break down that control. And it feels like that, that whole interaction is coming to well, yes, I think you could say a conclusion. It's coming to that in these years, decades ahead. So I see there's two camps. I don't get too, although I am aware of all of the different forms within the two camps, I tend not to get too wrapped up in it, because I think, particularly with the malevolent side, what I just call opposing consciousness, they work on your fear. And the more attention, the more energy you give to them, it's like attracting moths to car headlamps. You just draw more to yourself. So although I'm aware of that, I don't give too much energy to it. I watch it, I experience it, I don't let it close me down, I expand into it. And in terms of working with benevolent side, for me, true benevolence is where the energy empowers you by creating mirroring circumstances that help you realize something deeper about yourself. So to me, there's really two different camps. But although I'm aware of the different types through direct experience, I tend not to put too much energy into it.
Yeah, sure. So what makes you think that it's coming to a conclusion? Have you been sort of given a vision? Is there like a roadmap? I mean, what makes you so sure that it is? And it's a very reassuring thing to come out with.
Yeah, well, firstly, in the car crash, I was taken on a pretty profound multidimensional journey through my own life. But in the end, at the end of the crash, at the end of the journey, I saw very clearly what can only be described as the ascension of Gaia. I saw the fragmentation of all of the systems and structures that we've been living in. I saw all of that falling apart, and I saw the energy body of Gaia ascending into this kind of more vibrant, alive, state, and I saw humanity moving with that. And since that vision, I didn't fully understand it at the time. I kind of had a knowing of it, but I couldn't fully intellectualize it. I couldn't put words to it, really, not until later. But what I'm witnessing as an ongoing day in, day out story now is the fulfillment of that vision. So I'm seeing, the fragmentation of the matrix, if you like. If you look at what's going on in America now, the society there is in a really difficult place. They really stretched the boundaries of borrowing to the limit, and it's a question of how that society is going to be sustainable in the years ahead. And you look at Europe as well. How is Europe going to be sustained when there's so much borrowing and there's so much lending going on? And you look at peak oil, and you look at the way climate change is dwindling food resources. We are definitely, in my feeling in my heart, coming to a crunch period, which is not about 1 year, but probably, to me, around about a few decades, 2 or 3 decades, where we're going to see these major changes are going to take place. And it's going to leave, to me, large percentages of the Earth's surface, unlivable, really. And that's going to mean pretty powerful changes in the times ahead, and invite every single one of us to look inside and realize what's the deeper meaning here. Who are we really? We're not going to be able to just sail along as if nothing is happening regardless. The changes that are coming are going to affect and touch every single one of us.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, what can humans do then to prepare spiritually and physically?
Yeah, great. Watch 5 Gateways.
Indeed. There you go. Just click on the play button below this interview.
Click on the play button. Yeah. No. Yeah. Basically, the people are going to really come through this transition that's going to take several decades. The people who come through this are the people who venture on the inner journey now and unfold who they really are, relinquish conditioned, distorted behavior patterns, connect with their soul, infuse that into their lives, become fully present, and then they'll discover a new multidimensionality which they become a full active part of. And as the old world reality crumbles away, they'll find themselves increasingly a part of the new reality. And that, to me, in a nutshell, encapsulates what I see happening in the years ahead. And so it's really going inwards and peeling away the distortions, watching and unfolding. And that's the key reason we brought in the Routemap. I feel this is divinely given in order to act as a catalyst and for people to see, well, here's where I'm at. Here are roughly the kinds of influences and experiences I'm witnessing and going on in my life, and here's roughly the sort of things I need to do to move through those stages.
Indeed. So if you could cast your eye, say, 2 or 3 decades into the future, how would you hope to see the world, or how do you think it might end up?
Wow.
Bets are off.
Yeah, that's a big question. That's a really powerful question, because I really don't believe, even though I've talked of this vision, and even though I've talked of how that is being really reinforced by everything that's taking place that I see happening in the world now, our future is changed by every single choice, thought, emotion, feeling each and every one of us gives energy to right now. So you can't accurately 100% say such and such is going to happen on such and such a date, and this is going to happen, that's going to happen, because it's a shifting dynamic. But what you can say there are general trends, and if those general trends continue, the likelihood is that these kinds of things are going to happen. And for me, there are a few key trends. So one key trend is climate change. To me, it's really clear there's a very powerful climate change going on right now, and that is going to have pretty major effect on all of our lives in terms of growing potential, in terms of land we can live in and live sustainably on. You're going to see, I do believe, the breakdown in the financial system, because it's based on a basically a lie and or a whole fabric of lies which are going to come, unravel and fall apart. And we're seeing dwindling natural resources like oil. So this is like it's like a triple whammy. It's all coming at once. So that's going to have pretty profound effects. But I'm also seeing, amongst all of that, there is a powerful movement of this new consciousness. So you're seeing, for example, things like the transition towns movement, where people are gathering again in small communities, in villages, in towns. It's not about necessarily moving out of the towns, although some will do that, but you're seeing people finding new ways of living within the towns. And I see, one of the things, again, that I saw in the crash is more community localized living, supporting one another, educating kids locally, working locally, growing our food, making and creating energy locally. All of these things I think I see happening, and a trend that is being supported by the universe and will continue over the coming decades.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great vision to have, and I hope it continues that way. So, I mean, just a last question, really, because there's a lot of people come onto the website. I get a lot of emails from people that are seeking, and there's an awful lot of information on the internet, and sometimes it's hard to discern which is the right thing, which is the wrong thing, and perhaps we need to read the right and the wrong to know where we need to be. So I just wondered if you had any advice for people, about seeking on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely, I would. And that is that to discover your own true feelings within your heart and to trust them. And so when you read something, not necessarily just to take it at face value and to believe it, but actually say, well, how does that resonate with me now inside? Can I feel that? If someone's saying something that this is truth or whatever, how does that feel for me? Do I resonate with that? Is that my truth? Can I actually feel that now inside of myself? And if you can't, ditch it. Don't hang on to it, but trust, allow what you see in the outer world. I think it's fantastic that, hundreds of thousands of people all around the world are waking up and sharing their point of view. And I think that's meant to happen, because it's that's rather than there being 2 or 3 gurus, that everybody follows. It's this movement by thousands, hundreds of thousands of us, which is actually feeding into day-to-day life and breaking the matrix down. But so it's not about one person holding all the parts of the jigsaw. It's about each one of us finding the truth inside of ourselves and learning to do that. So as you engage with somebody, you might engage with a teacher or a mirror or a coach or whatever, but not to take their words literally, but rather to discover your own truth and how that helps your truth unfold and grow.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Chris. You've answered those questions magnificently, and and I really hope people can take away some great things from that. And obviously, you can watch the video, because what I've done, I've watched the video, and then these are the questions that I wanted to ask. So obviously, if you heard this beforehand, then you can watch the video, and then you can learn the 5 gateways and understand how you can really walk through those initiations that you're talking about, can't you? And I guess most people will probably recognise them almost immediately, wouldn't they? That they're already on that path already. And can you do in different orders? I mean, would someone do, say, number 5 first?
Well, it's a great question, and interestingly, just to answer another thing you raised before, and that is that we're now getting people from all over the world who are connecting us with a sense of gratitude, but not just gratitude, often a sense of relief, because they're saying, wow, the film has encapsulated exactly the things I'm experiencing. So now it kind of makes sense for what's going on in my life. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is a great question. From my observation, you can only pass through the gateways sequentially. So you must go through, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sequentially. However, it's not like they're the experiences are just linear. So, for example, you could be in Gateway 1, but you could be experiencing karma whilst in Gateway 1, which is a Gateway 4 experience. Or you could be having multidimensional experiences, which is a Gateway 5 experience, whilst you're still in Gateway 1. So you're still having these multidimensional influences, because each gateway is basically passing through different dimensions. You know, five dimensions, 5 gateways. But so you're having influences from all of the dimensions, but you only go through each of the dimensions, ascend through them, if you like, sequentially. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. No, it does make sense completely. Okay.
That's my observation anyway.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Chris, for that wonderful interview.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure talking to you, and I think the work that Spirit Guides are doing is truly magnificent. You know, I've seen the way you've grown as well, and I think that's really wonderful that you're giving a fantastic platform for people, you know, everywhere to connect. It's a really wonderful movement. So I'm very pleased to have been able to come on and speak with you.
No, it's fantastic, and I feel very honoured, really, to, you know, obviously to help people who are seeking and searching, and obviously it goes to show just how many people are now interested in this. So obviously we're a mirror, I guess, for them. So
yes,
indeed,
exactly.
Okay.
The fact that, as I said, the fact that you provided a platform is wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much, and so thank you for coming on, Chris, and I hope you enjoy the video. And as we said before, if you just scroll down at the bottom of the page, you'll see the YouTube video, and if you want to watch it full screen, you can click on the YouTube video itself, and you should be able to go to YouTube and watch it on widescreen, which is what I did. It's fantastic if you watch it that way. Okay, well, thank you very much, Chris, and I wish you all the best.
Ian, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.